Is this the episode?
We already started. Okay, I guess we've started.
I guess we have.
We have, but yeah, this is welcome to the second part of today's episode. You have already listened to Ben go on in the history about cryptids, sort of define it, argued a little bit about what it means to be a cryptid, what it means to be an actual animal versus a mythical creature, and give us a little bit of history on the chupacabra itself. But today I'm going to give you some stories as well as some like sort of mayhaps visual analysis of the chups itself. A little something to look at. If you head over to the script, you'll see some of my screenshots. I'll make Ben put them somewhere, or maybe I don't have my iPad right now, so I can't hold up anything on my iPad. So Ben will do it. But
I'll do my job.
Ben will do his job. God. Okay. But yeah. Now that we know about the chupacabra, let's get into some stories about the creature itself. I stayed away personally from podcasts and television shows and everything else in that storytelling realm because you could just go and listen to those bad boys and forget about us, but you won't do that.
You wouldn't do that.
Right? You wouldn't download our podcast, okay? You would download this podcast.
Did you hear that sorry, tangent here. That like you wouldn't download a bear, you wouldn't download a car thing.
Yeah.
Use a stolen font. A pirated font.
Really?
Yeah, they didn't pay for the font.
You wouldn't download this font and use it for free.
Yeah.
You would download this font and use it for free without telling. Oh my god.
Yep.
Oh, I love that. I kind of not love it, but I'm just like that's a move right there.
It sends a message. I feel like whoever was on that, was doing like the video editing was like, fuck this.
Yeah, it's like I would download a fucking. I will download a bear. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, you would download our podcast because we allow you to. Anyway, so in this, I was mainly looking for some online news sources such as TV stations, newspapers, and even government websites. Because the government has to tell us everything then, even if it's in a Popeye episode. And also our favorite place for fucked up shit, Reddit. Obviously, your boy went and looked for the original August 8, 2008 Chupacabra video captured by members of the DeWitt County Sheriff's Office when they were out patrolling. Have you seen this video before, Ben?
I don't think I
You can see it later. But yeah.
DeWitt. We talking, where's DeWitt? Texas?
Is this Texas?
Is it Texas?
Girl, look it up.
I will.
Open up the schools. But yeah, this is going to start us off on our first two stories as a reminder of the chupacabra itself, right?
Excellent. Texas.
There you go. So the video, for those who haven't seen it, and Ben, is a dash cam video, and they're following behind the chupacabra. On the video itself, it is described by the anchor reporter as hairless with a long snout, short front legs, and long back legs, about the size of a coyote. They believe that was that. However, I know. Hold your horses, hold your coyotes, right? They believe that was that. However, upon doing a freeze frame that I've screenshotted and put in the doc itself, they realized that this bad boy was probably not a coyote. The specific sort of thing that they're talking about is like when it's got its head turned to the side, and it's kind of like, admittedly, that is a big ass head. When I was watching this at my local coffee shop and abusing their Wi-Fi and scaring everyone who was behind me in line, I did quite a bit of like slow motion pausing and rewatching this video in comparison to a couple of like coyote running videos just for like posterity. And aside from the note about having short front legs and long back legs and that big ass fucking head, I feel like the gait of the creature and a couple of the videos that I watched of coyotes and wolves were like similar. But I'm not a zoologist. I'm not mountain monster hunter fella. Now they
City Boy
I'm City Boy JD, right? And plus I say coyote instead of like, what is a coyote, whatever, you know.
We're from California. We're gonna say coyote.
Yeah, right? We're from the Bay Area. I'm like, Ben, you're not from here.
Right.
He's not from here.
Been up here too long.
Okay. Now they may differ because I watched stationary videos for the most part when it comes to the coyotes for peak pausing ability, and the video of the 2008
stationary videos. Are we talking photos?
No, I mean like it's literally it's on a tripod instead of like on a dash cam. A stationary video, you know, a photograph. Jesus. But yeah, the difference is like this is a camera on like a tree versus like a camera on the dash cam of a cop car chasing an animal. So it might elicit a sense of fear in the animal being chased by a car
full of police.
Yeah. Anyway,
that's the result they go for.
Yeah. I think that's they don't just elicit that in animals. I think they elicit that in every creature. But the note about short front legs and long back legs is something that's been around to differentiate between normal dogs, coyotes, and the chupacabra for a hot while. It seems. Dave Pettis, have you encountered Dave Pettis? Okay, no. New guy. Dave Pettis of chupacabra.com, owner of chupacabra.com, noted in a 2006 article that they're different from coyotes because its back legs were too long. So, did you just roll your eyes at Dave Pettis, owner of chupacabra.com?
Sorry, Dave Pettis. I guess I'm not a pedophile.
He doesn't believe that the body is tea. My God, he doesn't believe the skinny legend. Anyway,
the legs are too
long.
The
legs are so long.
It's a cryptid. It can't be a coyote.
You don't understand, Ben. Okay, why are you yapping when you haven't seen the video? All this talk, you haven't seen the video. Exactly. So then we move over to the 2004 Elmendorf Beast. This is back in 2004. We know from Ben that the sighting was like 1995, 1996, and then we have blah, blah, blah. So this was 2004. I was following around dead links like a ghost hunter. Dead link, linked on a forum. The link was dead. The Elmendorf Beast is called that because it was responsible for a bunch of attacks on animal in Elmendorf around that time. It's described to be weighing around 20 pounds with a pronounced overbite and, familiar to Ben, unusual bluish hairless skin, right? In a Reaper mini forum in a post from June 2005, user Viking Lodge made a connection between the Elmendorf Beast and the Chupacabra, noting that this video isn't, I feel like that's Viking Lodge did that. It isn't. It's exactly a Chupacabra. It's different, right? Online, the Elmendorf Beast for a while was thought as a little different from the Chupacabra, or at least an offshoot or a cousin of the Chupacabra, right? However, similarly to our boy, it's often thought of as just a canine with severe mange, could be a Mexican hairless dog or something from the canine family that's been mixing around with different breeds of canines, right? Okay. As one does. Danny Pence, who was at the time a professor of is it parasitology or parasitology? Who knows? At Texas Tech in Lubbock, Texas, presented that it actually was just a coyote with mange based on a study of coyotes in Webb County by Lamar Winberg and two other professors, which was focused on sarcoptic mange. Due to the disease's severity, it can make coyotes do things that they wouldn't typically do, right? So we discussed how dogs would just maybe like fuck around and bite for pop off. But for this one, when the mange gets crazy, kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. In a later test dated to 2008 on the extremely familiar to us all Chupacabra from Phyllis Canyon, my alma mater, UC Davis Pepper Spray University, examined and concluded similarly that it was a canine that went through pretty severe mange and that the beast was in fact a mutt of sorts. On the mother's side, it's part coyote, and on the father's can I speak? Shit. And the father's anyway, and on the father's side, it's part Mexican wolf. So you are now probably listening to me and Ben, hearing a lot of different variations of what a chupacabra is, right? Yeah. You're getting some mixed signals. Is it an alien creature from outer space or just a dog that's kind of fucked up, right? Before we dive into some specific stories, we're aware that chupacabra has gone through some changes, the likes of which average puberty can't explain. When I first saw it on the TV in the 2000s, it was more of the one that Miss Tolentino talked about, right? A bipedal alien creature with spikes and blood red eyes. This is more up to speed with the idea that the chupacabra was something that could have been from outer space, right? At times, the chupacabra could be described as a monkey type creature, with one of the reports saying it ran like a monkey and was about 4 feet tall, but it didn't have a tail, right? In 1995, we had sightings where it was 4 to 6 feet tall. Just a heads up, the difference between 4 and 6 feet tall is huge. Just so you know, right? 4 to 6 feet tall, bipedal, and alien-like, or giant bat-like. Later, gorilla-esque. Then in 1996, we have some reports that it's a bipedal dog-like creature with hands. Then kangaroo-esque with a bunch of spikes that have and has a proboscis type thing that they suck all the blood out of. And then later we have one where it's like a foot to a foot and a half feet tall and can fly. And then later we have it 3 to 4 feet tall with spikes and can mumble and gesture. So it's been through some changes. And we need to, per Mountain Monsters, we need to look at how many coffee cans tall this motherfucker is soon, right? Right? Story and visual wise, people who are in the Chupacabra game, as the Chupacabra is real, they're in the egghead crackpots location of the spectrum. They argue that this transformation is due to the migration of the story, right? As it moves through cultures, it takes on a form that reflects the zeitgeist. If you took the story of the Bigfoot with the same, if you took the story of the Bigfoot with the same idea and its adaptations to whatever backyard it's trekking through, the story, the visual, the views of the Bigfoot tends to bend with the setting and the people, right? It's like how an animal is built for its surroundings, but in this case, it may be influenced by culture and society, right? The Chupacabra that we know of for the most part is something that blasted its way out of the 90s, late 90s, as Ben said, but the concept of a goat/blood-sucking creature had been reported in Puerto Rico since the 1970s and then 1950s in Arizona, and well before all of that, well before the sighting in 1985. However, we know from Ben that that it's likely just that 1995 one was influenced by the film Species. This is something noted by our bestie Benjamin Radford. He wrote a book called Tracking the Chupacabra, and Lauren Coleman from International Cryptozoology Museum. They believe that that's actually the likely explanation for the first half of the story. And then the next half is just like, yo, I heard about this. And then it's a doc. So the two well-known stories for reference when it comes to the differing visuals of the Chupacabra is the two that Ben has mentioned, Phyllis Canyon. So let's go a little bit deeper into how she sort of talked about it in an interview. So in an interview with Texas Standard, she said, "The first time I saw it, we had just gone back from Africa. And you see everything in Africa. And then I come home and, oh my God, the weirdest thing I've ever seen was right here on our ranch in Texas." So the story is as follows, to add from Ben. In 2007, she found the body of a chupacabra on her ranch. Canyon believed it to be a mix of a couple of canines, but just veered off into something different, even calling it an ugly creature. Girl, judgy. Anyway, Canyon and others found bodies of the creatures in July and saved one of the heads to have tested. At the time, she was of the idea that it was a chupacabra and that it was responsible for the loss of several chickens at her ranch. I think she said like 26, and I'm like, God damn. Right? And the key thing that made her think that it wasn't a coyote that had some issues, she was like, it's not a coyote with sarcoptic mange, is that it was draining the blood of her chickens, right? As we know, she took a photo, it got viral from there. And obviously, like Ben said, Homegirl took advantage of this popularity to sell shirts that Ben, we should look up, because we should fuck the Sonic and Garfield t-shirts. Let's get, it literally says 2007, the summer of the Chupacabra. Cuero, Texas. Yeah. We need that shit. So Canyon, when discussing interest in the creature, said the following: "Be nice, okay? I don't understand it. The interest has been phenomenal. Obviously, the Chupacabra is mythical, but this is something weird. People are amazed. I had the presence of mind to save it. They don't understand. I am a hunter. When I see something this strange, I am going to try and figure out and find out what it is. Had it not been killing my animals, I probably wouldn't have worried about it." So
she didn't even kill it, right? She found a fucking dead body on her property. Like, what are you talking about? You're a hunter. You're a scavenger. You found...
Settle down.
Look, I respect the hustle. I respect that you find a dead coyote and turn that into, like, probably $10,000. Good for you.
Oh my God. So what we have with Phyllis, after Ben sort of just stomped on it, is the more updated version of the Chupacabra, right? This dog, coyote, wolf-like creature that genuinely does look like a coyote with mange, and the kind that I'm most likely to not believe in, because I also have seen a bear with mange, absolutely skinny as fuck. And I understand that while it's an awful sight and she's a hunter, It's a dog. It's a dog, guys. I've seen a dog. And then we go back to Miss Madeline Tolentino. I got this one directly from Benjamin Radford's article because I could not get into whatever article it was that was trying to steal my email. She spotted, again, we know the chupacabra from outside her house. She described it, dark eyes, bipedal, 4 feet tall, thin arms, 3 toes, no ears, but yes, ear holes, long spikes. This one is the one that aligns with my original view of the chupacabra. And personally, had it not been influenced by the Species movie, this would have been like, I would have been like, this is the one that I believe in, and this one is fucking real. Right? Sure. Right? Yeah. However, obviously, due to some inconsistencies with her stories and issues about the description and the visuals of the chupacabra itself, the story is called into question, making it so that any of the following sightings that used her story as a reference equally questionable, right? So, with all that being said, keep this in mind as I move through these stories from our best friend Reddit. So when I read a story, just think to yourself, and after, what is the image that comes up? Is this version a dog, coyote, wolf, or an alien?
We're doing dog, alien.
Right? Is this person just fucking looking at a weird dog? Or are they looking at the real thing that was inspired by... did Madeline manifest?
Yeah.
Did Madeline manifest our good man, the Chups? Okay.
Or is Species a documentary because the government has to tell you what it's up to because of the cosmic laws?
Exactly. So like... choose your fighter, right? Okay. So this first one is from r/unexplained from a year ago, from Expert Inquiries 6282. So it starts like this. Chupacabra encounter. It was in a very rural area with lots of farmland close to the borders between California, Arizona, Mexico. But I was on the California side. Me and my family, dad, older sister, and older sister's girlfriend we're in the car at night on our way back to my sister's house from the nearest town. We went there to go eat dinner at a restaurant since the small town around my sister's house doesn't have much other than bait, tackle shop, and a gas station, right? On the way, we had to pass a couple of miles of farmland and drive on dirt roads, which gets a little scary at night. I was in the front passenger seat and my sister in the back behind me. We were looking at a star map on my phone since we could see a lot of stars in that area and wanted to see if we could identify any, when our dad, who was driving, suddenly swerved and freaked out a little. I heard a whimper, growl, which made me think we hit a dog, but my dad said there was a really messed up looking white thing running directly at our car, but we didn't hit it because he swerved. My dad described it as big as a pit bull, with a bear-like snout, pale white hairless skin, and very human-looking feet and long fingers, toes, almost like the werewolves in low-budget movies where you can tell it's a human in a wolf costume. Me and my sister were too preoccupied looking at the star map to notice anything but the growl, but my sister's girlfriend caught a glimpse of it, and she said all she saw was a white dog running towards us.
Mama, that's a rake. That's Crowler.
Mama, that's a rake. Mama, a rake in front of you, actually, right? I started freaking out, but also super interested to have such a strange encounter, thinking it could have been ass walker or a chupacabra. My dad was very adamant that it wasn't a regular dog or coyote. A couple days later, I was jokingly looking up pictures of supposed walkers and chupacabras, showing my dad each one, laughing like, is this what you saw? Go ahead and make fun of your dad. Hey, Dad, is this what you saw? Anyway, until I got to one picture. His face dropped and he got goosebumps. Holy shit. That's exactly it. My dad is a calm dude, and I rarely see him freaked out about things or even show any intense emotions. Masculinity. But I could tell are you Asian? But I could tell he was seriously freaking out about it. I also looked up noises of coyotes, hyenas, wolves, and bears, and the closest match to what I heard was a hyena growling, not the whooping and laughing sound they make. I've never heard of a hyena in North America, and there weren't any zoos or wildlife preserves in the areas, though the area is between 2 Native American reservations, which made me think at first that it could have been a walker. I'll attach the picture I found of the supposed chupacabra, and I'll send it to you, Ben. I just want to note that I did find out it's just a sculpture of a chupacabra at the BCR Museum in St. Petersburg, Russia, which also has sculptures of fairies, mermaids, Bigfoot, and unicorns. So not the greatest source, and maybe just a coincidence that it happened to look exactly like
Artistic
it.
representation.
Right?
Okay, interesting.
But it still really freaks me out and intrigues me to this day. I finally decided to post my story somewhere because I'm curious if anyone else ever had an encounter with a white-looking chupacabra. Almost every encounter I hear about is the typical brown, hairless, sometimes reptilian dog creature. I also looked into news reports from the area and couldn't find anything about farm animals killed and drained of bloods or any hunters coming across wild animals in a weird way. So I'm going to send it to you, and we're going to keep in mind what we know about the Chups and think, Mama, is this a walk? Mama, is this a crawler? Mama, is that a rake?
Yeah, Mama a raking.
Mama a raking from you.
This is. I mean, it looks like a fucking dog.
I know. It's just like when the sister's girlfriend says like it looked like a huge ass pit bull. I was like, the sister was right.
I mean,
the sister's girlfriend was right.
This sculpture, it kind of looks like shit too. It's giving Gollum a little bit.
Yeah. It's giving my precious.
Like, yeah, maybe it's because there's like no teeth on the top, so it just kind of looks like like I'm not super. Not the most scary chupacabra I've seen. Yeah,
and then you can see on like like a little bit of the bottom of the photo itself. There's the Phyllis Canyon chupacabra right underneath it.
Oh yeah, so there is. Yes.
Yeah, with very really blue eyes, striking blue eyes.
Yeah, that's the quirk of chupacabra. Yeah. Nice choice on the taxidermy.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are we thinking? What are we? Okay, chill out. Okay, what are we thinking?
I'm putting this in the dog camp.
All right,
100%.
yeah. So dog or alien?
It's a dog. Okay. It's a dog. I think the human-like hands and feet. I was a little like, ooh, interesting, but then it was just like going to like with the rake crawler thing. But seeing that this is like what it actually looked like. That's a damn dog.
That's a dog.
You saw. Look, I have a dead dog story I can share.
Go ahead.
When I was cleaning, I went to high school. They required community service hours. My community service hours were cleaning the side of the road by this beautiful Six Flags. We found a dead pit bull in a garbage bag. It was like the hair had sloughed off because it was dead for a while. We weren't sure what to do with it because we were like 15, and none of us wanted to touch an icky dead dog in a trash
Understandable.
bag. So we were like, hey, what should we do about this? Should we like call animal? Like, who's gonna pick this up or take care of it? Guy we were volunteering with comes over, grabs like the back of the bag, right, and it's open, right. Swings it. Dead dog flies out into a ditch and just leaves it.
Hey, OP, maybe that's what you saw.
So maybe I'm thinking, I'm like that dead pit bull definitely looked very similar to a lot of chupacabra images I've seen of just kind of like a dog without much hair and the big ass pit bull head. So maybe we need to get on our Reddit account and just go, hey, what that dog do? What that dog do? Have you seen a pit bull before?
Yes. Hey, not the musician, but like the dog. Have you seen a white pit bull before? Yeah. In the comments, people were saying like, "Oh, crawler, perhaps, rake, perhaps," but the person was like, "Nah, it bit a big dog." What that dog do? Right. So okay, we are camp. That's just a dog on this one. That's a dog. Not an alien. Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Moving on to this next story we have. Once again from Reddit. This time in the darkness prevails. r/darkness prevails. So I did make sure that this was a real fucking story. Okay. From user wrong D's nuts 69. Okay. My chupacabra story. Okay. Once again, keep in mind, dog or alien.
Wrong D's nuts.
Right.
Yeah.
Get this correct. D's nuts 69. Right. Okay. I'm going to read this bar for bar. Okay. I'm a 16-year-old boy, and this happened to me when I was 8. I went to Mexico to visit my grandparents with my 2 brothers for the summer. It was good over in Mexico. We visited many places like the Aztec ruins and the tropical waters. My grandma took me to a little house that she grew up in when she was a child. It was pretty old and felt like it collapsed at any moment. We stayed overnight in a cabin that was sweet. We set up a campfire and ate some s'mores. My grandparents and my brothers were telling some Mexican urban legends. They mentioned, let my sort of colonized state take over. La Llorona, El Cucoy, and La Lechuza. They mentioned the chupacabra. My parents always told me about the chupacabra since I was 6. My brothers were trying to scare me, and they did pretty well. It was bedtime. I went to sleep and dozed off. I woke in the middle of the night for no reason. I heard a strange noise outside and I stupidly looked out the window. Don't ever fucking do that, right? I couldn't remember much, but I saw a weird, skinny, hairless creature standing outside. I freaked out and I hid under the blankets. I heard scratching noises all night and couldn't sleep. When it was morning, I woken up and went outside. I went to a tree and saw claw marks on it. Claw marks scratched on it. Let's think back to our friends at Mountain Monsters. My brother saw it as well. My brother spelled something horrible and we checked it out. We saw a dead deer with
piss spot.
Yeah, it's a piss spot, right? We saw a dead deer with 2 punctures on its stomach. I didn't know what the hell was going on, but my brothers knew what was going on. It's the chupacabra, my brother spoke. We came across another carcass and it had the same 2 punctures on its stomach. My brothers were really creeped out and we decided to get the hell out of there. We didn't tell our grandparents and acted like it never happened. 3 years passed and now I was 11. I completely forgot about the chupacabra incident and I was living a normal life. My mom told us that we would visit my grandparents again with my older cousin. I was happy to see them after 3 years. We arrived and it was normal. We visited Cancun and Mexico City. We went to the same cabin I went to 3 years ago. I started getting back memories and the chupacabra incident was back in my head. It was nighttime. I decided to go to bed. While asleep, I awoke into a scratching sound. I knew it was a chupacabra. I looked out the window, this time not seeing anything. I blinked many times. I gave up and I decided to go back to bed. I was awoken another time by twigs snapping outside. It was very loud, almost as if I had headphones on. I looked and I saw a creature that was hairless and skinny. The creature quickly ran away until sunrise. The sun was rising and I noticed that my window had some claw marks. I had some delicious breakfast and went outside. I went outside and saw broken twigs and sticks. Oddly, there wasn't any footprints, but I returned to the tree I saw 3 years ago and more claw marks were scratched on. I told my brothers and my cousin who saw it too. We were all spooked out and we saw a carcass of deer. It had 2 punctures on his stomach as usual. My cousin was dumb and went into the forest alone with a blade. It took 30 minutes for him to return. His face looked like he witnessed somebody getting shot. He was pale as a ghost and looked scared. What happened? I asked. He lifted his arm and revealed a huge claw mark. He had 2 red dots on his back, almost resembling the 2 punctures on the deer. To this day, my cousin still won't tell any of us what he saw or what happened when he went into the forest. I'm just glad he returned and was still alive. I'm not planning to go back to Mexico to see that chupacabra again.
That fool got
I know, right? To this day, I sometimes hear the scratching and clawing marks that I heard when I encountered the chupacabra at night. I'm just glad that none of us became its next dinner. So this one. Weird, skinny, hairless creature.
Weird, skinny, hairless creature.
Scratched when Yes Girl, give us nothing. I think the main things that it was giving chupacabra to this person is that my parents told me about a chupacabra, and also this one sucked
bite marks on a corpse.
Yeah.
Those are these chupacabra touch marks.
Yeah, and all it is just I saw a creature that was hairless and skinny.
Right, and kind of similar to Madeline Tolentino, we don't hear nothing from the cousin.
Yeah, the cousin.
No real description from the cousin who, again, went toe to toe with it, got his ass fucking beat by a chupacabra.
Yeah,
apparently.
And maybe this one has ESP as well.
This is it's interesting because like the chupacabra generally very few interactions with people in like the stories I've noticed, and then also basically never attacks people. Basically never is like trying to eat humans. Which kind of what separates it from like, vampire lore.
Yeah.
So interesting. Okay.
Dog or alien.
Claw marks. Bite marks.
Claw marks, bite marks.
Look, with what you gave us on this hairless creature, I think it's got to go dog.
Dog.
Well. I would need more description to differentiate it from a any alien thing.
Yeah.
Given us our species guy. Or weird little guy. I'd love it to be a weird little guy. Please give us some weird little guys, but
because this one was just like it's hairless and skinny. Yeah. Didn't even say like this was on its all fours.
Right, on 2 legs. Was that bipedal?
What was it
doing?
Right.
What was it doing?
So this one isn't,
and it scratched and clawed shit like a dog.
Yeah, two red dots on that cousin's back. First of all, cousin, come out. You should be the one telling this fucking story. You should be like, my cousin was getting woken up.
I got attacked by a goddamn chupacabra and lived. Yeah.
Traumatized, but I fucking lived, dog.
I'm a survivor.
All right. So Wrong these nuts. 69. Where's your freaking cousin?
Where's your cousin? Get your cousin.
Get your cousin on here. Get your cousin to email us at the email that we're going to say at the end of this episode. But yeah, that one, dog territory. Dog territory. All right.
Two for two on dogs.
2 for 2 on dogs. This next one is from 11 years ago. From Gentleman Bastard with an E. So this one is chupacabra, in quotation marks, encounter, right? Okay. I'd like to start the story by providing the bona fides of the man who shared the experience with me. He's a chief. Hold on. He's a chief warrant officer with 30 years in the Navy and a hunter since he was 12. So he's a member of the Mountain Monsters cast, right? He's like opposite Wild Bill, right?
Hoorah, brother.
Yeah, right. So this guy's in the Navy
version of Wild Bill.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's seen the world, been in combat, and spent more time in the woods than I've been alive. What I'm trying to say is he's a salty motherfucker who doesn't scare easy. Anyway, I met Bill through my father, who is also in the Navy.
Yeah. Normal Bill.
I met normal Bill through my father, who is also in the Navy. He doesn't, you can hear him, okay? He doesn't need subtitles. This one, okay? Got to talking about how I go hunting wild pigs on my uncle's dairy farm just south of Jacksonville, Florida. We generally go out in pairs at night, one person manning a 2 million candlelight spotlight and the other man a shooter. We roam the cornfields until we hear animals rustling around, hit the spotlight, bang, 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 rinse, repeat. So one relatively cold January night, we get a group together for some good old hog shooting. Normal Bill and I go out to a field where we saw some fresh tracks earlier in the day and camp out. There was no moon out and a bit cloudy, so it was as dark as you can get in Florida. Perfect conditions to see some pigs. Sure enough, we hear some rustling and grunting, and Bill hits the spotlight, revealing 5 decent-sized pigs. I raise my Marlin lever action 30-30 and fire at the lead pig and down him with a shot behind the ear. One of the better shots I've made, to be honest. Smoke from the muzzle. All that coming from this voice is just so good, actually. Right? Smoke from the muzzle. Briefly obscures my view, but normal Bill yells out their location and tracks them with a light. I get off about 3 blind shots and hope for the best, but they go high. The pigs take off directly away from us and get to the tree line, so normal Bill and I stand there surveying the scene, ears ringing, adrenaline pumping. We see the downed pig, share a fist bump and a laugh, and start walking towards it. As soon as we step, we hear a scream from behind us. A long, ragged, angry scream. It was loud, and it was close. I freeze and look at Bill, but he's looking back at me with the same look of confusion and fear. I ask him, "What the fuck was that?" He replies, "Fuck." He shines a light behind us. Really helpful, Bill. He shines a light behind us, slowly scanning the open field and the trees beyond, and we see nothing. He starts to say something when we hear the scream again. Closer, louder, and longer. If you want to know what it sounded like, next time you go to a football game or a concert, you might scream and holler and wind up losing your voice. When you wake up feeling hoarse and raspy, scream as loud as you can for 5 seconds. That's what it sounded like. Bill immediately says, "Give me your pistol. We need to get out of here." I hand him my .45. "What about the pig?" "Fuck the pig," says Bill. Now, we are about a mile away from the car on a 1,000-acre dairy farm with some kind of demon bitching at us at 2 a.m. in pitch black. We start to panic. What begins as a brisk walk away, carefully scanning in the 360, turns into a steady shuffle, into a light jog, into a full-on sprint. I don't remember if there were any more screams, but my adrenaline was turned up to 11, and my focus was on 2 steps ahead of me and not getting left behind. We make it back to the truck without incident and hightail back to my uncle's house. On the ride home, we have a calm discussion about what happened. The fucking fuck was that? I don't fucking know. No fucking way that was a hog. It sure as fuck wasn't. To cap it all off, we get back to my uncle's house and the other guys had heard the shots and were waiting for an update, standing around a bonfire. To his credit, Bill played it off cool as I had a death grip on my beer, eyes bulging and seeing monsters in every shadow. "Yeah, we left the pig out there. We'll get it in the morning." "Say, Uncle, we heard a pretty funny noise. Sounded pretty funny." "Oh, did you?" "Yeah, raccoons can make some pretty interesting ones." I'm pretty sure this wasn't a raccoon. It kind of sounded like a person screaming. Get ready. "Oh, that?"
Yeah.
"Yeah, I've heard it a few times. We don't know what it is. We call it the chupacabra." And that was that. Been out there many times after, and thank the Lord I've never encountered it again. But I'll be fucked if I don't think about it constantly when I'm out there. TLDR, fucking chupacabra, bro. So this one.
Fucking sucks. I hate this one. I hate this guy. Didn't happen. No fucking way. First of all,
He's like, no pics. It didn't happen.
So fucking Reddity with the writing. I just couldn't.
The end bit that I was like, when I was reading this, he was like,
yeah,
oh yeah, we don't know what it is, but we called it the chupacabra, and that's when the movie ends, right? That's when the movie ends,
yeah.
right?
Hard to sit through, honestly. Yeah, so it doesn't really fit into any of the chupacabra shit. This is, I think, Florida appropriation. Florida's just appropriating a chupacabra, if anything, because there's no blood sucking, no apparently blood drained animals. There's a screaming thing in the swamp. Chupacabra, no chupacabra crossover as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
This one.
It's only chupacabra in name by the uncle at the end.
In name, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and
motherfucker, you don't know what a chupacabra is.
Yeah,
this is not a chupacabra.
Yeah, people are asking this person in the comments. Any further description? Is it your little green alien type or obviously mangy coyote? Yeah. And Gentleman Bastard was like, never saw the thing. Thank God. Yeah. And then people are asking like, hey,
yeah,
bobcat, cougar,
right?
If it's because
did you look up animal noises?
Yeah, because the screech, scream thing is like. Those things can make that. Right.
Yeah. Right.
If I was already panicked and I heard that, I'd be like, you know what?
Yeah.
You can tell me that was a cougar, and I'd still be like, it's a fucking chupacabra. I have to leave now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, whatever, dude. You heard something in the fucking swamp. There's animals in the swamp. They make weird noises. Give me more.
Yeah. Right. You're from Florida. You should know.
Yeah.
Well, you and Normal Bill should know.
Gentleman
Bastard from 11 years ago with your Marlin 3030. That one I hate to ask. Dog or alien?
I guess dog. If closer to
at
dog
this point, cougar,
sure.
bobcat screeching.
Yeah.
So, guy from Florida, stop appropriating Floridian culture and stop writing like you're trying to pitch a script in an elevator.
Yeah.
Okay. This one, when I was reading this, I sort of was like, what the fuck? You're like, alien. Okay. This one's called, interesting. It's a very interesting title, right? The Weird Date. Chupacabra sighting. Coincidences. Week-long memory loss? This was from Cryptids from a month ago, from Shoddy Ad 3046. So, at a particularly think they also consider the kind of date this person is going on and think whether you would hit this person, hit either one of these people up on a second date, right? Okay. At a particularly dark time in my life, I went on a date with a guy. Would never do that. Anyway, he was really smart and we clicked well over text. We met at a pizza place and the conversation got dark. He shared a story of a near-death car crash and seeing ghosts of his dad. I have my own ghost story.
No, we already know. I'm sick of saying this.
Okay, so Bet immediately no. I have my own ghost story, one I rarely share even amongst close friends. For some reason, I felt like sharing it with him. I won't get too detailed, but the story involves seeing and receiving a message from the ghost of my friend who had killed himself. What are these two people doing on their first date together? After pizza, me and my date went for a walk to a park nearby to sit and continue chatting. Mind you, that's one of my favorite conversation things. Mind you, we are both completely sober. All we had was water and pizza.
Yeah, you guys are in high school. So, yeah.
All we had was water and pizza. Okay? While I was sitting at the park, I point out an armadillo over by the trees about 15 yards away. We're both looking over at the armadillo and the trees when get ready, bipedal, gray-skinned, hairless creature appears, then disappears behind a tree. In the moment, I turned to him and said, "What animal was that?" He says he didn't know, but he saw its eyes glow. Then we drop the topic and shrug it off. Are you fucking serious? The date goes on to be a disaster because he drives me to a Buc-ee's way out of town rather than the local one I wanted to visit. Also, he got pulled over for speeding on the way and I had to console him after. Needless to say, I sent him a text the next day that I would not be interested in a second date. LOL. The weird thing is I completely forgot about the chupacabra Dobby from Harry Potter looking creature. About a week later, I was telling a friend about my date and I suddenly remembered the chupacabra sighting. I got so scared and I started to cry to my friend. Because of my visceral reaction, I reached back out to my date just to get confirmation on what we both saw. And he confirmed. Not a second date, Ben. Don't worry. Just to verify that they saw what they saw.
Yeah.
The same week, I was talking to my ex-GF, who introduced me to my friend who this person is just deeply oversharing, who committed suicide, whose ghost story I shared with my date. I told my ex-girlfriend about my date, sharing my ghost story and all the strangeness that followed. And to my surprise, my ex-girlfriend asked for my date's last name. I share his full name with her, and she told me that they knew each other, and that my date knew our dead friend as well. I actually could not believe this, and it still blows my mind, especially because they all knew each other from online. Me and her were long distance. I haven't been sure what to make of this, and I wanted to share my story online. So the note that I put after I read this was, why did they just go, oh, and not dip when they saw the creature? Also, are they in high school band? Why does everyone know each other?
It's 100% high schoolers. This is definitely a good reason to not ask these people for second date is because we're both almost 30. We would be going to jail.
If we were in their age,
if we were in the scenario of them, I still would know.
Absolutely not. Okay, so that description.
Speeding towards the Buc-ee's?
Buc-ee's, the one out of town instead of...
Out of town? Why are you taking me to this weird Buc-ee's?
Don't take me to a second location.
No.
Unless we know each other.
A strange Buc-ee's? No, thank you.
Yeah, like this Buc-ee's is haunted. The second you enter the Buc-ee's, it's actually a portal to a different Buc-ee's in a different town.
Liminal Buc-ee's.
Right?
Yeah,
so
sure.
The description of this is, I know you did a little fist bump and you seemed very excited. Bipedal, gray-skinned, hairless creature. Its eyes glowed. Dog or alien?
Alien.
All right.
But again, unfortunately, I do have to flag on the play here. What makes this a chupacabra?
Yeah.
Story-wise, it does not have any of the features that we have come to associate with chupacabra stories. It is a sighting of a mysterious little humanoid. I'll grant you that. No dead animals. No blood sucking.
No one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So one of the commenters responded and said, with that evidence, I think if someone told me the story and was just like, what is this? I'd be like, you saw a creature. But I think because this response is based off of the fact that the person is saying it is a cryptid, right? So you and I just got that it was a bipedal, gray-skinned, hairless creature with glowing eyes. And then later it's like Dobby from Harry Potter looking creature, right? They just say, I forgot about the chupacabra, right? That kind of thing. So the first commenter said, with that same evidence that we saw, I would most likely say it was just a dog with severe mange. Dogs have tapetum lucidum, eye glow. So it was under a park lamp or something. Its eyes would glow. I would not stress about the chupacabra, as it was just most likely a dog with severe mange.
Okay. Did they respond?
Yes. They said, thank you.
Okay.
I figured it was a dog with mange. But that doesn't really explain the bipedal part. It was on 2 feet and... get excited. The arms hung at its side in a human-like fashion. Okay. Also, was a bit shorter than I'd expect a dog that size on its hind legs to be. Perhaps, you see, with all that being said, it being on 2 feet with arms hanging at the side like a human fashion, they then proceed to go, perhaps a coyote with mange instead? Not sure, but it was strange. There was a park lamp lighting that area of the tree, so I'm sure that's what the shining eyes were about. But I don't know. It really vanished into thin air behind the tree. It was suddenly gone, visibly and audibly, once it got behind the trees where it appeared.
Okay. All right. Chimp with mange.
They're like, oh, so it was like sort of standing and it had human hands. A coyote with mange?
Right, yeah.
Dog, I'd be like, maybe it's a... I'd be at that point, I'd be like, bear with mange. They'd be like, no, actually, this one had...
Bear.
This one looked more like... I'd be like... Man, I'm not helping you no more. Like, make it up on your own.
Right.
Like,
clear, yeah, right. If you're like, oh yeah, I guess I was walking around like a hind legs, like a coyote would. All right, well, I don't
pack it up.
I don't believe in here. Let's.
Okay, so if it wasn't a coyote with mange or a dog with mange or a chimp with mange, it's a alien creature that barely touches chupacabra. Yeah. So this next one is from a month ago, again on r/cryptids from Cryptid Quest. This one is called My Real Experience with the Chupacabra. Okay. The following is my encounter with what me and my family think might have genuinely been a chupacabra. So, my family and I visited Cancun last year, and it was a great and relaxing vacation. The resort was beautiful and pretty big. On one of the on-site restaurants was a bit of a walk through the resort along the ocean, and they had a little golf cart to haul people around. Very fun. On our first night, we tried this great restaurant and didn't want to walk all the way back to our rooms, so we waited for the golf carts to pick us up. It was pitch black outside with very little lighting on walkways. There was tons of trees giving plenty of shade for this creature to hide. While looking around for the next pickup cart, I alone walked a little ways away, but immediately stopped when I saw what I believe could have been a chupacabra. It was just a shadowy silhouette running across the walkway. Here it is. It looked like a big dog with bony ribcage and skinny deer-like legs and paws. It had a dog snout and some rough teeth. It was quick, but I can see some details. It was definitely not a normal dog. Ben, hold your fucking coyotes, okay? Right. I ran back to my family and my girlfriend, trying to convince them of what I saw and that we need a golf cart ASAP. They laughed and were intrigued, so they walked over to the sighting. Behold, my girlfriend started freaking out as we both see it again, running back into the bushes. It was freakishly running like a limp or bunny type movement. I'm just glad I wasn't the only one who saw it. The rest of the week, we didn't see anything like it again, but I know what I saw, and it could have been a chupacabra easily. This is one of the cryptids I will believe in now. What do you think we saw?
Dog. Dog.
Stop it, okay? Someone replied with, sounds like a big dog with mange. I'm also curious what you mean, deer-like legs and paws. Did it have hooves? And the person said, no hooves. And its body looked too rounded, like it had horrible back issues. And this next comment is what really got me. So hold your horses on whether this is a dog or an alien. Once you hear this next thing, Comter said, I think you saw Jolo, which are even cooler than chupacabras because they A, exist, and B, will guide you through the 9 levels of the underworld if you ask nicely and give them pets. And Cryptic Quest said, no, dude, this thing was much bigger. Like a 9-foot man running on all fours, but a dog.
They saw a fucking shadow.
Like a 9-foot man running on all fours, but a dog, kind of legs freakishly thin and crooked. And then people were like, bro,
what's that behind me? Oh, there's a giant behind me. Look at that. What is that? It's a shadow, motherfucker. It's bigger. What are you talking about? What is this?
It's like a 9-foot man running on all fours, but a dog, okay? And then someone was like, that sounds a bit more like a crawler, possibly. And then someone was like, that golf cart was not going to save anyone. So now that you know that it was 9 foot tall, okay? So you're still like, it's a dog.
It's a dog. We saw the same thing in the Mountain Monsters when they were walking by the greenhouse and there was a big dog shadow and they were like, what was that? You see that giant? There's a giant dog in there. That. It's a dog. It's a dog, and the light is hitting it, and a shadow is bigger than the dog. God. That's how it works.
Yeah, that's so fucking funny. Oh, okay, so
these fools are getting fooled by like fucking Play-Doh shit, like the fucking cave. They're like, oh my god, what are these shadows real? What is that, bro? Have you seen this? Bro, is this real?
Okay.
Is that a body? Like, what the?
It's a 9 foot tall man, but it's a dog, and it had skinny legs like a deer, and not hooves, okay?
And a dog head, yeah.
And a big ass fucking dog, okay? It was quick, but I can see some details. It was definitely not a normal dog, okay? And in my notes, I put, it was definitely not a normal dog, my ass. Even with a 9 foot man running on all fours, I was like, that's a big dog. Dogs can get big. So that one Ben has decided is just a dog because he doesn't believe in fun. This next one is from 3 years ago, and this once again from r/cryptids, from prestigious owl 6623. I need help identifying what I believe was a cryptid sighting. So maybe we need help to help this person, but this is probably a chupacabra in a sense. Okay, this was 4 or 5 years ago, but it has stuck with me, and I've done research, and I can't find an exact match. So the story is, I was riding my bike along some train tracks at night with an old boyfriend trying to cut through town faster. We were passing through an unusually well-lit area by some warehouses, so we picked up our speed a little bit. Then, to my right, I see what I can only... Ben, be serious.
Okay.
What I can only describe rationally as a 3-foot monkey walking upright, running away from me and disappearing into the bushes. I
Okay.
say monkey because it had a monkey tail, but it seemed hairless and hunched over, but definitely on 2 feet. Both I and my boyfriend literally skidded to a stop, and we both looked right at each other with what I can only say was wide eyes of disbelief. Hey, he said,
Okay.
"Did you fucking see that?" And then we wordlessly raced away. Here's the strange part. We never spoke about it again. Not one word. It was on my mind for weeks, but I never spoke of it. I don't know why. I didn't speak of it either. It was only a couple of years later I decided to do some Googling and figure this out. I looked up escaped monkeys from the zoo or sightings of monkey in my area. Monkey in my
Monkey in my area.
monkey in my area now.
Yeah.
Monkeys in your area. But to no avail, so I figured it must have been something else because I just can't explain it any other way. The closest thing to my research has come up with that it's a puckwudgie, but none of the info on them says anything about long tails. For more info, I am in New England, USA. At this point, I don't know what else to do
Okay.
but join a cryptid subreddit. This experience haunts me by popping into my mind just when I think I've forgotten it. Any ideas? And then someone responded, chupacabra? And then OP said,
Interesting.
"That's a
Okay.
good guess. Are they usually hairless?" And this person said, "I read about some people saying that they hairless in some reports. How big was it? 2 to 3 feet tall, like a goblin or something. If hairless chupacabras exist, I think this seems like a likely answer." So, chupacabra
Chupacabra.
or local monkey?
They're hairless. Local monkey in my area.
Local monkey in your area. Looking for friends.
Interesting. New England.
New
Okay,
England.
so that's interesting.
Okay. Is this okay?
What
This
do we
one
do
is dog,
Alright.
coyote, wolf, or an alien, or is this just a monkey?
Yeah. I'm going with monkey. I'll go with that.
A monkey in New
But
England.
again, monkey New England. I'm going again just based on we don't have any chupacabra lore stuff going on
Yeah.
with it. And the person didn't even make the chupacabra connection necessarily until they were asked chupacabra.
Chupacabra?
It's chupacabra.
Chupacabra? That's literally
Yeah.
chupacabra.
So,
Okay,
yeah.
so that one is monkey. So we're a secret third option, which is monkey. Then we have 2 chupacabra sightings from r/paranormal from 5 years ago.
Okay.
Sighting 1.
Nice.
My mother told me about this one. When she was a young child, my mother's family owned a lot of land. They had many horses and cows on the land and took care of them regularly. One morning, when everyone woke up, they went out to the pasture to feed the cows, to see damn near all of them slaughtered, completely drained of blood, and having this horrible, terrified expression on their face. They were shocked and scared, so they decided to get on their horses and ride into the wooded area to see if they could find whatever did this. Not too long after they started riding, a group of men in black came through and told them they needed to leave the property and get away from the area because there had been a chupacabra incident. This story always weirded me out. So that was the first sighting, right? We got
standard Men in Black behavior. Hey, we have a chupacabra out here. We have an alien. You can fuck off. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, that's
what they do, right? They tell people about the.
Yeah, they tell people. But it's like the government. They have to tell you. This is one of the Men in Black that have to tell you.
They forgot the little flashlight thing that makes you forget.
Yeah.
Did we get a location on that one or not?
This one? No.
No specific location, right?
Okay. The only locational related thing in here is that there's a DMV. There's a DMV nearby. Okay, so the next story is still from them, and it's from their boyfriend. Him and his cousin were walking around one night. They started walking towards this big field, which is no longer there. Now has a DMV in that location. Where are they paving the parking lot and putting up a fucking DMV? Right? There was a big wooded area behind that field. In the dead of night, they saw this dog-like creature that started to walk towards them. Got frightened, and when it did, shot up these spiny things on its back and head. They turned for a second to see if anyone else was around, and by the time they looked back, it was gone. Just that quick. It was so speedy, but they heard it run off. They tried to look for it, but it was gone too quickly. All right. So, the first one, they didn't see anything, but Men in Black
Right.
were like,
Men in
it's a
Black.
fucking chupacabra.
Alien.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
And the second one, they saw a dog-like creature, spiny things on its back and head, fast.
Yeah.
So we can split this up into
Dog.
two. First one,
Okay. Point for Alien.
Alien, because of the Men in Black,
Really?
and
Yeah.
you know.
Men in Black safe.
See, they said it was a
Men in Black tell you gotta listen to Men in Black.
Yeah, they had to say it was a chupacabra because they had to lie about the alien that was there. And then the
Right,
next
yeah.
one, dog-like creature, spiny things,
Dog.
spiny things, and you're still gonna say dog.
Yeah, I'm still gonna say could be like hair, where like the hair stands up. Or something
Oh
like
yeah, like the mange, it has the thingy.
that. The kind of ridge. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so this one, dog and alien, dog and
Uh-huh.
alien.
Dog and alien.
And
Okay.
okay. And then I think this is the last one for the Reddit one. And then I have two final ones that are like stream of consciousness. The most interesting thing
Okay.
I've ever read.
Getting artsy.
They're getting artsy. And if I had an accent, I would do it in an accent. Okay. This one,
What accent we're talking here?
perhaps
I'll wait
from
and
the
see, okay.
from the south.
Oh hell yeah.
Okay. This one, we're going up north. Victoria, BC. This is from r/Victoria, BC. So
Ooh.
we're not even in a cryptid space, right? This is from 3 months ago. I was driving down Mortimer Street on my way to my girlfriend's house about an hour ago, and just before I had to turn off the road in front of me, I saw two very strange creatures. They both looked to be about the size of a raccoon without hair. They had longish snouts, sort of like armadillos. Medium length legs, longer than those of a raccoon, but shorter than a cat. They looked like they either had very short hair or no hair at all, and were completely brown in color. Weirdest of all, they hopped along sort of like a rabbit. I turned my high beams on to see them, but still turned off the road, so I turned around to investigate, but when I went back, they were gone. Not surprising, because when I saw them initially, they were heading into a driveway. I wasn't going to trespass that night to potentially get my blood sucked. Has anyone else seen or heard of chupacabra or similar creatures in Victoria? I'm from Saskatchewan, and any weird hairless creature got called a chupacabra, and they scared me quite a bit as a kid. Doesn't help that it was pretty windy tonight. So, dog or coyote or alien or bunny or raccoon or cat or armadillo.
So I think like the limb thing, because we talked about this in the Montauk Monster episode, that raccoon limbs are longer than they look with all the hair. So I could see this just being raccoon.
Wow.
Raccoon, mangy raccoon, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it does say they looked to be about the size of a raccoon without hair.
Without hair.
And I for some of these, as I am going through them now, even more, is that like we said about like you mentioned about cryptids, is that they're very like they got the culture, they got the folklore. It's like memory more than zoology. And I feel like the only thing for the most of these stories that I was able to find on Reddit is that they are chupacabra sightings in name.
Right. It's kind of like a term for like an unknown animal is like a chupacabra.
Yeah.
It seems like almost.
Yeah, and that is the thing I've seen. It was like the chupacabra phenomenon, which is like any sort of creature that is not easily identifiable, they get called something as close as possible to the thing that is being.
Right. So it's kind of it's split even from like the livestock murdering, goat sucking activities of a traditional chupacabra at this point.
Yeah. So a lot. They're very removed. However, these next two.
Okay.
I like them.
The penultimate.
The penultimate and ultimate. Stories. This one is from Missouri, and this is from alchupacabra.com/sightings. Both my favorite place, and the website is about as 90s as it can get. This one is from Missouri, from December 2000. Right, so before Phyllis Canyon, after Tolentino. All right. I live in Columbia, Missouri, an area that is hardly considered chupacabra country. I must admit that up until recently, I was rather skeptical, until about a week ago. I'm an avid bow hunter and spent a great deal of time pursuing the local white-tailed deer. Over the past few weeks, I've discovered 3 carcasses that were completely drained of blood. The first doe had 4 puncture marks, one on the top of the neck, one on the stomach, and the second one, which was a small buck, had been torn apart by coyotes, but there was no blood to speak of in the snow. The third doe was very fresh. I found her last Friday. I was on my way into the woods when I heard what sounded like a deer running up the hill behind me. I immediately dropped to the ground and began to sneak. I spotted it in the brush about 60 yards away. I stalked to within 20 yards only to find that it was already dead. It had not gone yet into rigor mortis. The carcass was still steaming, a sure sign that it was less than 3 hours old. The steam was radiating from a wound that ran from the base of the neck to the top of the shoulder. It was also bleeding profusely from 2 wounds on the neck about 2 inches apart. I decided I had better get my hunting location. I sat for a while and a few deer crossed the creek about 70 yards away, out of bow range. They seemed very jumpy. I stayed until the last available shooting light. I began my long trek back to the truck just as darkness fell. I was about 300 yards away from where I had found the doe when I heard a sound in the brush behind me. I thought nothing of it. There are many animals one may stir up in the woods at night. I got about another 100 yards before I realized it was following me. I could hear its footsteps, and they did not sound like those of a deer, coyote, or dog. I stopped and shone my flashlight behind me, but I could see nothing, not even the telltale eye shine of an animal. Suddenly, the brush moved on the hillside, and I could make out a dark shape moving against the snow, and very quickly. It stopped abruptly in the hillside about 15 yards away from me. I turned my flashlight in its direction. I was rather alarmed by what I saw in the shaking light. It was about 3 feet tall, baboon-like, with thick, matted, dark hair. The face was baboon-like, and the eyes were a little larger than those of a human being. I could not tell color because they reflected my flashlight much the way a deer in car's headlights does. It ran up the hill. I put an arrow on my bow and continued towards the truck at a more rapid pace. I heard it again, this time running straight at me. I could make out its shape about 15 yards away and coming fast. I blindly fired an arrow in its direction, and by some stroke of God, I hit it, and it ran away. Then I left the woods very quickly. The next morning I came back, this time with a high-powered rifle in case it showed up again. I began trailing it. The tracks were about 10 feet apart when it ran and 2 feet apart when walking. It walked on all 4s. I found a few splatters of blood, but it was bright red, signaling a muscle hit, not a vital one. I trailed it for a very long time, almost a mile. It went onto a rocky hilltop where there was no snow, and try as I might, I could not recover the trail. I don't know what it was, but this so-called chupacabra seems like the best candidate. So overall, I feel like in the stories that I found, this one had like the most sort of detail, interaction, sighting, some context about all the blood, the animals being attacked. So it's a very like perfect.
It's a solid chupacabra story. It's got like all the elements you kind of want.
Yeah. But we now have to look at the description itself, which is 3 feet tall, baboon-like, with thick, matted, dark hair. Face was baboon-like, and the eyes were a little larger than those of a human being. So
I'm glad we have the monkey category.
Yeah, we have basically covered it all. Well, the one that we don't have right now is kangaroo. But okay, say that you're someone who's not seen like the original drawings from Tolentino, right? Yeah. Could you put on your little tin hat foil and think that maybe this is closer to that description? Right, 3 feet tall, baboon-like, and then the eyes were a little larger than those of a human being.
Yeah, right.
And reflective, and like. So
you're angling for this being more of an alien.
I'm angling for this.
if you squint.
Like if you squint, because it's like weird. It's not a doggy, right?
It's not
3
a dog.
3 feet tall, baboon-like. Yeah. Yes, it touches on some of the parts where it's like. This has been described as a monkey, but I'm like, let's shove it to alien.
Okay. Yeah, fuck it. All right, we'll give it to alien.
Close enough. Check. This is from Missouri, December 2000. So this is like fresh.
So I got lost on the way to Columbia, and wound up in Columbia, Missouri.
Yeah. So it's like this one's maybe this is one of the ones that could fly.
That does sometimes happen.
Flew to
I
Missouri,
do that occasionally.
right?
Mhm.
And this last one, this one is from
Strap in, folks.
Mexico, 2000.
Okay.
Right? The first one had a lot of like setting for like, you know, the contextual nature of the chupacabra. We know it's a chupacabra because it was
Mhm.
doing all that stuff. And then we got a little thrown off
Yeah.
by the baboon, the baboon sighting.
Right.
But yeah, this one is from Mexico 2000. I believe you guys because I had a really freaky encounter with this chupacabra creature. Well, at first, I thought you were all a bunch of weirdos for believing in such a strange creature, but now I swear to God, this thing is very real. I was driving to my aunt in Mexico to stay for the week. I was driving a truck that I've since then sold. Well, anyway, It was getting late, like 1 or 2 o'clock, and I was getting sleepy. It was way dark out, but I did have my flashlight with me just in case. As I was driving, I saw something strange. On the side of the road was some sort of deer or something like it. Though it wasn't uncommon to see roadkill, what wasn't common was all the blood around it, right? I only got a passing glance at it, but it looked like it was blood. I did some hunting in my time, so I know what a blood animal looks like. With most roadkill, I never see any blood, but with this thing, it was everywhere, and there appeared to be no trauma. But after a while, I just dismissed it as something that's rare but not unheard of. Or of course, it could have hit something pointy on a car or something, so I put it out of my mind. Then, as if my truck read my mind, because I was thinking, what if a rabid animal hit it? The tire blew out of my truck. I'm not afraid of the dark or anything, so I fished the flashlight out of the pile of crap that made up the passenger seat of my truck and went out. Sure enough, the tire was busted to hell. It was way too late to change it, so I decided to take a nap in front of the truck till morning. Yeah.
Okay.
Last night I was like in the passengers. Like, yeah. I don't know how long I was asleep, but something strange woke me up. It was a strange scratching sound on the door, so they were inside. Yeah. I thought this was some cat trying to get in. Those little critters are smart. Pulling out my flashlight again, I took a peek out of my window and saw some movement. Then I turned on the flashlight. What I saw scared the ever-loving crap out of me. There was some strange greenish creature with long spikes down its back at the bottom of my door with at least 2-inch claws. When it noticed the beam of my flashlight, it looked up at me. It had huge red eyes and long teeth, which it bared at me. At that point, this is a beautiful phrase, I was scared spitless. I lay down on the seat for the longest time, listening for any sounds, my heart beating in my chest. I must have fallen asleep after an hour or so. When I got up in the morning, I took a look at my truck. The bottom of the driver's side door was covered in scratch marks, which cost me a tidy sum to fix. Another thing caught my eye when I looked down. There was a trail of tracks on the ground, bloody tracks leading up the road. I don't know what kind of animal it was, but in all my years of hunting, I've never seen anything like it. After changing the tire, I got the heck out of there, and even today, I never use that road to get to my aunt's anymore. That concludes Mexico 2000, but...
Yes.
This boy's an alien!
That's kind of I will put that under the alien camp. Yeah, that's like a classic chupacabra, which is
this is classic, right? When I read the greenish creature with long spikes down its back at the bottom of my door with at least 2-inch claws.
That's it. That's our guy.
This is the only chupacabra sighting ever.
This is the only one that sounds like a chupacabra that I want. The chupacabra I want. The chupacabra of my
This
heart.
is the chupacabra I want. Yeah, this is the one I'm voting for president. This one's not a dog.
Okay. Well, yeah, thank you for saving the best for last on that for sure. That's not a dog. That's not a monkey.
It's a chupacabra.
That's a chupacabra.
Right?
That's a chupacabra.
Right. So, like in the trekking through all of these stories, definitely I was like, you were in a fast-paced environment. You were having a time. You saw a dog.
Yeah, and let's see. So about 2/3 of the stories you shared were dogs.
Yeah.
And then, like, it would be kind of evenly split. Alien, and then the monkey. Do we count just like that? The straight up hairless monkey? Do you want to count that?
I think I'm going to count that as a fucking monkey.
Okay, so count that separately. And then we have the baboon one, which I feel like could also potentially be
just a monkey.
Or an alien. So then we have... 18%, like 20% monkey, and 20% alien.
Yeah, and it's like,
and 60% dog.
that 20% alien is what I'm really, really
That's what you want.
wanting, because it's like, once again, like that whole I don't know, maybe we want to save this conversation for the next episode.
For next
yeah, but yeah, I mean that sort of strategic telling of the story is just giving you like how people are sort of taking the story of Chupacabra and sometimes just calling something a Chupacabra by its name because of what they're seeing, and like this sort of
Chupacabra by any other name. Not to smell so sweet.
But them's the breaks.
Them's the breaks. So that's interesting. Okay, so yeah, we have the newest ones seem to definitely be the furthest from the original Tolentino sightings, right? Those seem to be straight up
those are dogs,
right? Or those earlier ones, at least like the Mexico one, is definitely like that's somebody knows their Chupacabra lore.
Yeah,
if nothing else.
The farther we get from the Chupacabra, the more we get into you are just seeing a dog.
You're seeing a dog.
We get into the shift of like the Phyllis Canyon dog with mange that we're trying to.
The 2007 Summer of the Chupacabra split to become dogs.
Yeah, and it's like
as the accepted one, and to kind of willing to go onto the internet and say with your whole chest, I saw a Chupacabra. When Mama, you saw
Mama,
a dog.
that's a dog.
That's
Mama, that's a dog. Mama, dog in front of you.
Yes, Mama, dog in front of you.
Like it's so.
Mama, you in the
Mama,
cave.
you are in the cave. Mama, that's a shadow. Like
Yeah.
it's so interesting to have a story like a sort of cryptid creature like this, where we like with the Loch Ness Monster, with the Bigfoot, it's like, you know what a Bigfoot is, right? We have the variations, right? We have the local, that kind of thing. But you know, the Bigfoot is a big, tall, hairy thing,
right? Yeah.
That does these certain things. You know what Nessie is. You know what the Mothman is, right? Yeah. But the Chupacabra is so like. When I was looking through like this Chupacabra timeline from, weirdly enough, Princeton.edu, it was when I listed the like it was 4 to 6 feet tall, bipedal, alien-like, giant bat-like, and then kangaroo with spikes that has a proboscis. It's a foot tall and can fly. It's just like sort of even during like the breath of like the 1995 to 1996, we had those differences because like that's when we could see like it was a gorilla looking thing, it was a bat looking thing, but at least then it was still like in its early days, right? But now, and
it was still been kind of established.
Now we've sort of kind of ripped it out of there, and the Chupacabra is no longer to me like a cryptid funny little creature, and instead just like old dog.
The Chupacabra trunk death has been disappointing. It's definitely not. I want a green little I want a little guy.
I know.
Give me a little fucking guy.
I want whatever fucking Mexico 2000 saw outside of their fucking 100%. Truck.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I want whatever. I want that Madeline Tolentino.
I'll have what they're having, but far away.
Please.
Yeah.
Bring it here. I have one little. I think this fits a bit more in here, but there's an excerpt from the book that I meant to put in my script because it gave me joy, and I want to share it with you.
Let's go.
So it is a sighting, so that's why I think it fits better in here than the next episode. We'll be back for part 3. Part 3 is going to be more of a freeform discussion of the place of the Chupacabra.
Yes.
So this is an example showing that the Chupacabra can understand human language. Ooh. The housewife's eyes met those of the human creature and stared it down. As she thought aloud, if you're one of the Chupacabras, you're a pretty sorry excuse for the creature. Then she promptly added the abusive word pendejo to her thought. The grotesque entity slowly covered its pointed face with its wings, as if hurt by her rebuff. It moved away from its position, slinked against a wall, and half hid behind a washing machine.
How are you bullying the Chupacabra?
I just like it's bashful.
Don't look at me. It's I didn't finish it because it got me a little sad in the mind. There's a movie on Netflix right now. It's like a family movie. It's called Chupa, right? And that little thing that you just mentioned, they sort of like cutified the chupacabra in the movie.
Sure, yeah.
It's kind of like giving like koala tiger with wings,
like Lilo and Stitch.
Yeah,
it
a little gives like live action Lilo and Stitch, but like it's got spots. And I kind of watched it, and some of the I took notes as I was attempting.
You read on Wikipedia.
Excuse me, I watched it because I'm freshly off of Paddington in Peru, so I was like, maybe I'll watch another movie. Okay.
Be a film buff.
I know, right? I'm a film buff. Yeah. I've seen 2 movies this year, half of Chupa and all of Paddington in Peru. Okay, so for the origin implications of the Chupa in this movie is that it's based on a legend. It has healing powers. They see some sort of cave in it that has cave drawings of the chupacabra. These things can get really like wicked huge. I think maybe the parent chupacabra, probably the size of like an elephant kind of thing. To me, visually, it was like lion, dog with wings, wolf, and is a koala. And I put Stitch, but it's a hyena. It can fly. It has wings, and the wing thing I saw like when it was like off screen or something like that, or it was like hinting that a chupacabra is in the vicinity, like a feather type situation, and it lived in a cave, and when one of the sort of shithead anthropology guys was holding a claw of it, it was a claw the size of a human hand, so it's a fairly big like adult chupacabra. And then this was set in San Javier, Mexico, in the 90s, so this is like in that first wave, but it looks like the modern iteration of the chupacabra as opposed to like the reptilian like alien chupacabra that we know of. And this is it has feathers.
Well, I feel like we have not heard anything described
like
that.
And it is like when you said about like it sort of understanding, there was a scene in the movie where like the kid is playing like a little music box, and it was like mimicking the song it was like singing along with a kid, and it seems to sort of like understand in the way that like movie animals understand people, right? So it was kind of like that. So someday I'll finish this movie, but when I got the exposition origin stuff happens in the beginning of the movie. The only only thing I'm like I haven't seen evidence of, even if they said it, was the chupacabra had healing powers in this one, and that was why the government was trying to get the chupacabra, was it had healing powers. The blood could heal.
So it's not sucking blood.
It was like natural. There are goats in this one that they're trying to keep the little baby chupacabra away from, because they're like, no, don't do that. You're too cute. Don't kill a goat. That kind of thing. So it's divorced in many ways from the chupacabra but in the sense that mayhaps I was gonna say that like maybe like a lot of children's Bigfoot movies are divorced. No, I think they're still fairly straightforward, identifiably Bigfoot.
Like you can see, it's big. It wouldn't be like Bigfoot with wings and like a giant nose so it can sniff out crime. Or whatever.
So
it would be like,
this one is like chupacabra, Lilo and Stitch, dog companion movie so far.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. But potentially could say like giant winged elephant sizes.
Yeah, and then like a little bit, it was giving me sort of like, is it this? What is that one thing? The Sphinx? Yeah, it gave off that
kind of manticore.
Yeah, like it looks more like a manticore than like if you had presented someone this image and it was like, what is this closely looking more like? They're not gonna, I don't think anyone's gonna say chupacabra, even if the person's like they would.
If you're familiar with chupacabra lore, you would not make it.
You would be like manticore. Yeah. So Chupa, when I finished it,
the look of the chupacabra still up
yeah,
still
it's interesting.
Still being fought over the canon of chupacabra. Interesting. Well, I think we can leave it here, and then we can pick up with a little bit more of a freeform discussion of kind of the chupacabra, maybe what it means. We can get into that a little bit more. Significance, cultural aspects of the chupacabra. We'll return. But folks, thank you for listening to the second part of our chupacabra installation. Chupathon.
Gotta get a better name for this.
I think. Well, we only have one more shot, so you better get cooking. But yeah, this episode was written and produced by Ben and JD. For all our sources, please go to hit us up on Instagram.
Hit us up on Instagram.
You know where to find us. If you want to know where something is, let us know. All our music is provided by Yager Frank. If you liked the episode, tell a friend. If you didn't, tell an enemy. And we'll catch you for our third installation in this Chupa Historia.
Bye.
Bye.